the expectation of black people to not make people around you feel uncomfortable. So in certain ways, you're expected to apologize for your blackness, right? Apologize for enjoying yourself, apologize for being too dark, too loud, too kinky, whatever it is, right?
Hey guys, what's up? Ranza here from the Black Experience Japan, right? This is the BEJ challenge. You guys might have remembered a few weeks ago there was a call. I put out a call asking people from right across the world to submit videos on their Black experience wherever they resided. So today's BEJ challenge submission comes all the way from London, UK, right? The submission was sent in by Talika, right? She is an academic in London, and this is what it's like to be black in the UK. Here is Talika's submission. Talika, thank you so much for your submission. Here goes.
Hello. I'm taking a rare sunny day to record this video. My name is Talika and I am from the UK. I'm currently in London, where I live and work. I'm an academic and I lecture at a university in cultural and historical studies for fashion. I'm also completing a PhD in how women of the Windrush era used their clothing to suggest respectability politics for themselves. And I'm also the founder of the Costume Institute of the African Diaspora, which is at CIAD UK on all social media platforms. So, being black in the UK, this is a fractious question, I think, but definitely one worth talking about. And I'm really appreciative of you, Ranzo, for putting the video out and putting the call out to get people across the world to talk about their experiences. So, being black in the UK means essentially being ignored. There is a let's just talk about, you know, I'm a history and culture person, so let's talk about the history and culture of things. Britain annexed its slave colonies and colonized 2/3 of the world, and so it's very clear that this small island with its large ambitions pushed across the world this idea of class and betterment, who is above, who is below. And it was very much understood, and still is understood to certain degrees, that black people are below and will always be below and are on the bottom and will always be on the bottom. So being black in the UK means that that sense of being at the bottom is fed to you in one way, shape or form. Maybe not as covert, not as overtly as it is in the United States or anywhere else, but they do it in very subtle, covert ways here that let you know that you are less than, that you are not as important as the majority of the country, who are essentially white and English, or from the other countries around the UK, Wales, Scotland, Ireland, even though the Welsh, the Scottish and the Irish are also not considered to be as good, if you like, as the English. The English do have a very strong sense of they are better than anybody else, which of course is nonsense. So the whole thing about being ignored is really about putting up and shutting up, right? So any kind of experience that you may have that is detrimental to your well-being, or that is systemic, that happens in your work, in your education, anything like that, it's known that you must shut up about it, right? Don't make too much noise about it. Don't be too loud about it. Don't say too much. Don't put yourself out there too much. It's really gauche. It's really out of order. You're making people feel uncomfortable. Now, of course, with the rise in talking about diversity, and Black Lives Matter movement and all of that, everyone's really trying to push for this diverse agenda, right? For a long time before this current resurgence of Black Lives Matter, we've had this push for diversity. And really the conversation around diversity and inclusion and tolerance, which is an awful word when you're talking about trying to get along with other races, we tolerate each other, is ridiculous. But that conversation has been going on since black people came into this country en masse. Now I really must let it be known that actually black people have been in the UK since at least the 3rd century. In the 3rd century, in County Durham, which is just below Scotland, there was a African settlement of Roman legionnaires, right? So there were Roman legionaries, and they were African Roman legionaries. All those people who wanted to say that Africans weren't part of the Roman Empire, that's complete nonsense. So that was the 3rd century, and there's been little trickles of black people and people of African heritage on this island since that time. So when we're talking about the Windrush, which is when a lot of black people came over en masse, then we're talking about 1948, kind of 1947 as well, just after the end of the Second World War, where a lot of black people from the Caribbean came and essentially cleaned the country up after the war, right? And so even though we know that history, there is a lot of black people who are not necessarily very clued up on that history because they haven't been taught that history. Our history isn't taught in schools. White people, non-black people aren't taught that history. And so it's really, there is this narrative of black people are just here. We don't know how they arrived. They just turned up. They're just, and and they're noisy and they make a lot of noise, and we just wish they'd be quiet and go away or just sit in a corner. There's very much a narrative of that. And of course, being black people, we don't do that. Because, what the hell should we? We're human and allowed to exist as much as anyone else. We have a very irritating acronym here, which is BAME, which BAME stands for Black, Asian and Minority Ethnic. It used to be BME, which is Black and Minority Ethnic, but the Asians managed to get themselves included in there. It's very much like BIPOC, the Black Indigenous People of Colour acronym as well. And it's ridiculous because essentially it just means that anyone who is non-white gets called into this acronym, right? There is also something here in the UK about political blackness. Now, I don't think I've come across political blackness anywhere else in any other part of the world. I don't think I've come across political blackness anywhere else in the world. And I travel quite a bit because of my work and just because it's something I really love doing. So political blackness essentially means anyone who is not white is considered to be black. Now, it used to be, back in the 70s, that it was a political term that was supposed to be unifying amongst black people, Asian people, and anyone who felt they were marginalized. Now, what happens now, we've kind of moved towards the end of the 20th century, we're kind of getting towards a quarter of the 21st century. Political blackness really only works for people who are not of African heritage and who want to access funding that is considered BAME funding, right? So political blackness is suitable for people who want to jump on the bandwagon when it suits them and align themselves with blackness when it suits them. But should people of African heritage require support, marching in the Black Lives Matter movement, signing petitions, whatever it is for our liberation, our inclusion in mainstream culture, then suddenly people who have aligned themselves with political blackness, you can't see them or hear them again, right? It's an interesting situation, but it's not uncommon because I know that this sort of thing happens across the diaspora. So also there's the lack of acknowledgement of our pain and our distress, and as I was intimating to earlier, being not too loud about that, right? whatever pain and distress you're talking about, can you please just keep it to a minimum, and please don't be too loud about it, because you're making people feel uncomfortable. This whole thing about making people feel uncomfortable is very much considered to be the and again, all these things are unspoken, but it's very much considered to be the expectation of black people to not make people around you feel uncomfortable. So in certain ways you're expected to apologize for your blackness, right? Apologize for enjoying yourself, apologize for being too dark, too loud, too kinky, whatever it is, right? And of course I'm looking at this from an academic point of view because I researched this quite a lot, and so it becomes an issue where you feel like you're apologizing just for existing, and it's very painful. And it's very easy, I think, for people who don't live in this situation and who are looking at it from the outside to be like, well, you know what, just rise up against the system and blah, blah, blah. But of course, what happened with our elders who came here en masse at the end of the 40s, early 50s, you know, throughout the 60s and early 70s, they understood we just come into work. We just want to come, we just want to work, keep our head down, make some money, go back to the Caribbean, set up our lives and live good. But that wasn't able to happen. There's a really brilliant song by Karen Wheeler called UK Black, which absolutely outlines this history to a T, this whole coming over to the UK en masse and how we were invited to come, and how the government really didn't want us here, but you know, Jamaicans especially, God bless Jamaicans especially pushed their hand. And so it's really been this understanding that you're not wanted here, but we're tolerating you. We're putting up with you. We're trying to see if we can work with you, but you know, you people, you're very difficult to work with. You complain a lot. At the moment, we've got coronavirus, COVID-19. It's been reported that the majority of people who are dying from this disease are people of Black and Asian heritage. And so people from ethnic minorities are people who are dying mostly from this illness. Now, one of the ministers in Parliament said that it was our fault that we're dying from this because we're not taking it seriously. Now, about a week or so ago, it was really hot here. It was, you know, sort of in the 35s, right, which is very hot. That's centigrade. I don't know Fahrenheit, sorry. And so there was all these pictures of people on the beaches. It was not us on the beach, right? It was not us on all the beaches around this country. So again, this whole suggestion that we're not taking it seriously is false, right? The continued expending of emotional labor is also something that is expected of you if you're here, if you're living in this country as a Black person. As we have Black Lives Matter, the resurgence of the Black Lives Matter movement happening at the moment, there is an expectation that if your white colleagues or your white friends want an explanation of what's going on, you as a Black person should do that. You as a Black person should tell us, you know, what's happening? Why is this happening? What can I do about it? I'm a good white person. What can I do? You know, we've got Google now. You know, Google is out there to help you do the research. We've been having to do the research ourselves. The information that we've gotten for ourselves is out there for white people too. So there's no reason why we should have to expend the emotional labor to explain to you what's going on. Go and learn. There was a book written by Renee Edo Lodge called Why I'm No Longer Speaking to White People About Race, which is a fantastic book. And if you haven't read it yet, I would suggest that you do read it. And she really expanded on why expending this emotional labor to people to explain why race matters, why having these conversations matter, why Black lives matter, why we shouldn't be treated as if we are less than. is an incredibly important thing to do. And how can we still in the 21st century be carrying on this legacy of lesser people, right? How can we still be carrying on this legacy from enslavement of people who are the legacy of enslaved people should still be treated as if they are less than? How can we still be carrying that on? So being in the UK means very much having to discuss those issues all of the time. And finally, I just wanted to say something about being a black woman. Being a black woman in the UK, especially a black woman who is ambitious and wants to be out there and you know, put herself forward. Maybe we want to be an artist or whatever it is. It does mean, I've got a pigeon friend, it does mean not being promoted, right? So you'd think in the UK that we never had any black female artists. We will never have someone here like Beyonce or Rihanna or somebody like that. Not because we don't have people who are talented, not because we don't have black women who are beautiful or any of that, but black women artists will never be promoted. Black women recording artists are never promoted as much as Adele, Amy Winehouse, people like that. The most you'll get is a mixed race artist like Liana La Havas or Emily Sandé, somebody like that, right? Leona Lewis, people who have an adjacency to whiteness that they believe they can sell to a white audience. Even though you'll have people like Stormzy in the male categories, and that is the only time they'll accept people who are, that's the only time they'll accept any kind of black music, black art, anything like that, is when it comes from an inner city area and it's talking about issues of depravity, violence, guns, anything to do with things that are very much detrimental to the community. They love all of that. Mainstream culture loves all of that. British mainstream culture loves all of that. They won't promote music that is positive coming from black people because, oh, you know, it doesn't fit the audience. All of that is bollocks. They've got the money, they've got the wherewithal, they just don't have the will. They don't have the will to promote it because they continue, and they've been continuing to say for the past 30-something years that there isn't an audience for that, which is total nonsense. And so I'm going on and on. I didn't want to waffle, but I have ended up waffling. And so I just wanted to wrap it up by saying there's a lot of things that we have to do in the UK to pull ourselves together and galvanise ourselves as black people. And it's not as easy as just saying, oh, well, just fight back the system and blah, blah, blah. Because it essentially means laying the ground as you walk every time. And the ground that has been laid before us by our elders has very much been a ground of just get your head down and do the work. And that no longer becomes viable when you're living in a society that doesn't recognise you. It didn't recognise us when they were here. And they endured hardships that they never should have to have. And now we are here, and it's really beyond time that we stop doing this.
If you again want to be a part of the BEJ challenge, right, send your video to info@blackxjp.com. What is it like to be black where you are? Who are you, by the way? First of all, let us know who you are and what it's like to be black where you reside. Also, you can use your cell phone to record the video, but if you're doing so, remember to turn your phone to the side, landscape mode, right? And use the back-facing camera if you're gonna use your cell phone. Otherwise, you can always use mirrorless camera, DSLR, you know, just get your story and send it over to us at info@blackxjp.com. That is the BEJ challenge. What is it like to be black where you reside? If you need additional instructions, send us an email at info@blackxjp.com or find us across social media at @theblackxjp. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up and remember to subscribe to this channel for black experiences across the globe. Primarily, of course, we reside in Japan, so Japan and across the world. Until next time, guys, bye for now.